A desperate hand writes a final letter with a quilt. Tears stain the tragic parchment, sealing her final, desperate thoughts. An urgent voice interrupts, ordering her that she must leave immediately. She deeply regrets ignoring warnings about her lover's infidelity, then suddenly pauses. The dark-haired knight urges her that they are completely out of time. She clutches the envelope tightly as fear grips her heart. She begs the knight to deliver the letter, and he agrees. She anxiously asks about the prince, learning he is waiting outside. The silent corridor leads her toward a dangerous public confrontation. She steps onto the balcony, overlooking a massive, roaring crowd. The angry crowd below demands that they hand over the saint. The bloodthirsty mob screams in fury, demanding her immediate death. A dark prophecy claims the devil will destroy Autent unless they throw her to him. Fears of destruction drive her to pray desperately for her own survival and escape. Rumors spread throughout the kingdom that sacrificing the saint will solve all their problems. She is hailed as the prince's noble, kind, and beloved chosen partner. The public believes her to be a delicate, angelic young girl. Her official public identity is revealed to be Lavioria Bailey. Laura looks downward, bearing the heavy burden of her tragic fate. A sudden splash of crimson blood shatters the peaceful atmosphere. The cruel truth is laid bare that a saint does not exist in their land. Her holy title is revealed to be a delusion fabricated by a power-hungry prince. The hidden narrative shifts to reveal the true mastermind behind her tragedy. Prince Sidaru Tan steps forward as the handsome, scheming leader. The crowd watches as Prince Sidaru Tan prepares to play his part. She looks with bitter hatred at the deceitful man she once loved. She coldly asks him if he is finally satisfied with his plot. The prince smugly questions what her fate will be once he dies. She mockingly asks if he expects to be seen as a grieving lover. He paints himself as a tragic hero, but she furiously demands he stop. Laura's eye widens in shock as a dark plan forms. She stares ahead, completely stunned by his ultimate betrayal and cruelty. The golden-haired prince suddenly kneels on the balcony before her. The stunned spectators whisper in disbelief as they watch their prince beg his beloved to make the ultimate sacrifice. He bows his head, playing the tragic lover for the crowd. Under his breath, the prince sinisterly orders her to die quietly. He whispers that her luxurious life was enough and mockingly declares his fake love. She screams at him in sheer fury to shut up. The prince secretly passes her poison, warning her to obey or be humiliated. He commands her to act like the saint, and she agrees internally. She smiles chillingly, warning him that he should never have betrayed her. She drinks the poison without showing a single trace of hesitation. The prince's eyes widen in absolute horror as he realizes she drank poison. He screams her name in absolute panic as she collapses backward. Lara falls limp into the arms of the completely panicked prince. He screams for a priest while she senses a strange, burning agony. She feels her body burn and her soul tear apart as she dies. She welcomes death peacefully, knowing this is only the beginning of her revenge. The scene shifts to a pristine pool, signaling a fresh start. Shattering her tragic end, she suddenly gasps for air in a pristine pool. Coughing violently, she collapses onto the wet floor as panic sets in. Standing alone, she stares bewildered at her surrounding grand marble bath chamber. Her hands tremble as she looks down, realizing she is surrounded by roses. She smiles through her tears, realizing she has miraculously traveled back in time. A quiet moment of transition marks the start of her second chance. Memories of her past betrayal and the prince's deception flood her mind. Resting on a luxurious lounge, she looks determined to change her tragic fate. A divine entity grants her a second chance to rewrite her history. She sits up, fully embracing the miracle of her sudden rebirth. She steps onto the marble floor, leaving her past sorrow behind. In her final moments of despair, a mysterious voice had offered her salvation. She did not care whether a god or a devil saved her. Resolved to survive, she prepares to face the dark path ahead. She was willing to endure eternal torment just for a chance at revenge. She vows to do absolutely anything to turn back the hands of time. She recalls her mother, whom she always resented for being cold and distant. Her handsome father once seemed like the perfect savior from her cold household. She reflects on her busy mother and the father who spoiled her. She laments her past ignorance, realizing how blind she had been back then. Beneath her father's gentle facade lay a wicked, power-hungry monster. He forced her to behave submissively, keeping her gaze strictly downward. He dictated her clothing, keeping her modest to satisfy the prince's tastes. She was molded into the perfect, quiet doll for the prince. To satisfy the prince, she chained herself to his every cruel demand. She unknowingly aided the prince and his wicked sorcerers in their schemes. Her compliance fueled devastating wars and conflicts across the kingdom. Staring into the mirror, she sees her true self beginning to wake up. A sudden voice calls out to her, breaking her train of thought. She rushes toward the door, calling out the name of her beloved maid. Her maid, Connie, appears, brightly announcing that the bathwater is hot. Connie scolds her warmly for staying in the hot bath too long. Connie's cheerful face quickly turns to deep worry as she notices her paleness. Connie offers to bring her a warm robe, but she softly declines. Connie looks at her with growing concern, sensing that something is wrong. She stares back, deeply moved to see her faithful maid alive again. Connie was the only person in her household who truly loved her. In her past life, Connie despaired as she became the prince's helpless doll. Connie had desperately begged her not to enter the royal castle. She warned her that the prince would only use and destroy her. Back then, she had foolishly dismissed the warning as a mere assumption. She had defended the prince, coldly brushing off Connie's genuine concerns. In a fit of naive denial, she had cruelly ordered Connie to leave. Tension hangs heavy in the air as the memory of her mistake stings. The loyal maid was mercilessly banished for trying to speak the truth. Overwhelmed by deep regret, she throws her arms around a stunned Connie. She tearfully apologizes, whispering how deeply she missed her loyal friend. Holding Connie's face, she swears to never let her go again. Connie smiles in relief, finding her mistress's sudden display of affection amusing. Connie plays along, teasingly asking why she is acting so different today. An absolute miracle shatters her tragic demise as she wakes up in the past, determined to rewrite her destiny. Reunited with her faithful maid Connie, Lara receives a gentle hair combing while secretly plotting her next move. Staring ahead with cold determination, Lara vows that she will do whatever it takes to succeed. She recalls the overwhelming roar of the crowd during a past public gathering. In her memories, a scandalous public embrace with a mysterious black-haired man shocked high society. The blue-eyed, black-haired man leaned in close, catching her completely off guard with his intense gaze. Amidst a bed of crimson roses, she vows to make her enemies pay for the suffering they caused. She realizes she has returned to the precise day before her fateful meeting with the prince. Turning to her loyal maid, she immediately calls Connie's name to begin her investigation. She demands to know the date and the status of her coming-of-age celebration, learning it was an absolute disaster. Connie explains that her father was occupied with his guests while her mother ignored the event completely. She remembers sending a portrait to the prince around this time during the previous summer. Panic sets in as she desperately tries to recall if she has already made contact with the prince. Her glowing amber eyes lock forward with calculating precision as she plots her next move. She inquires about her distant mother, shocked to hear that she is preparing to depart. Connie confirms the carriage is already being loaded for her mother's departure after breakfast. A chilling realization hits her that today is the day her parents officially separated. Breaking all protocol, she insists on seeing her mother immediately despite her maid's confusion. She rushes out of her room, her elegant footsteps echoing down the grand hallways. The panicked maid chases after her mistress, begging her to slow down. She reflects on her mother, Isadora the Golden, a legendary commoner-born noble who amassed unimaginable wealth. Despite her mother's relentless pursuit of noble status and immense fortune, their home remained cold and hollow. Behind the glittering gold lay whispers of a fractured family and deep-seated animosity. Her parents were notorious in society as a couple defined by mutual hatred and absolute division. Under the glittering lights of high society, a grand facade hid their crumbling marriage. She remembers her younger, foolish self screaming that she would disown her mother if she walked out. Her past words of cruel rejection echo painfully in her mind. She watches her mother leave, the slamming door severing their bond forever in her past life. Back then, she naively believed her mother had simply abandoned her to her father's whims. In truth, a single thread of salvation kept her sane during her dark years under the prince. Her mother had sent hundreds of letters filled with desperate concern, which Lara had foolishly ignored. Overcome with grief, she recalls that the only letter she ever sent back was her final will. Heartbroken by her past ignorance, she desperately races to prevent the same tragic mistake. She remembers her mother's desperate warnings about the prince's true nature. She wishes she could tell her mother to run away and seek her own happiness. She pauses, realizing she must convince her mother to escape this toxic household. The weight of her unspoken secrets presses heavily on her chest. She lamentably thinks that her mother's life would have been vastly superior had she never been born. Knowing her mother is a powerhouse, she vows to protect her brilliant future this time around. Spotting her mother in the courtyard, she calls out to her with raw emotion. Her mother stands beside a silver-haired man, looking startled by the sudden interruption. Although she ran with absolute courage, a sudden wave of doubt halts her steps. Fear grips her as she worries that her mother will reject her just as she once rejected her. Steeling her resolve, she prepares to beg for forgiveness for her lifetime of ignorance. Seeing her mother turn to leave, she realizes there is absolutely no time for hesitation. She sprints with everything she has, ignoring her maid's panicked cries behind her. She desperately yells for her mother to halt before she climbs into the carriage. With a taut, desperate grip, she catches her mother's arm in the nick of time. Her mother stares in sheer disbelief as she sees her usually cold daughter breathless and clinging to her. Looking her mother dead in the eyes, she vows to listen to her warnings and change their destiny forever. Clinging to the one person she used to push away, Lara desperately begs her mother to stay by her side. She grips her mother's elegant green sleeve with trembling, desperate hands, refusing to let go. Her mother turns around in surprise, gently asking her daughter what is wrong. Lara hesitates, wondering if she truly has the right to hold on to her mother after everything that happened. Looking at her mother's face, she wonders if this cold household ever brought her even a single moment of happiness. Grabbing her arm tighter, Lara makes a shocking demand, pleading with her mother to divorce her father. Together, they ride away in the carriage, leaving the grand mansion far behind. A heavy, tense silence fills the carriage as the two sit opposite each other, lost in their own thoughts. Lara suddenly feels incredibly embarrassed and uncomfortable after making such a dramatic scene. She realizes that returning 10 years into the past has created a massive emotional gap in their relationship. Her mother observes her quietly, leaving Lara surprised and nervous about what she might say next. Lara wonders if her mother is feeling just as anxious as she is in this incredibly awkward moment. Stealing her resolve, Lara softly calls out to her mother. Her mother looks up in surprise, caught off guard by the sudden call. She explains that she stayed in the marriage to take full responsibility for her own past life choices. Lara stares back in complete confusion, trying to comprehend her mother's unexpected explanation. Her mother reveals she had promised herself not to leave the estate until Lara reached adulthood. She admits she understood why Lara barred her from attending her coming-of-age ceremony. Her mother confesses she expected Lara to feel betrayed by her decision to eventually walk away. She recalls the painful moment Lara screamed at her to never show her face again. Realizing the gravity of her past self's incredibly toxic behavior, Lara freezes in absolute shock and regret. Overcome with deep shame, Lara covers her face and tearfully offers a sincere apology. Her mother pauses, her hand freezing on the carriage doorframe in sheer astonishment. She turns back, completely stunned by her daughter's unexpected display of remorse. As the carriage continues its journey, her mother speaks up, wanting to ask a serious question. She asks what Lara would choose to do if she were ever given the miracle of returning to the past. Lara asks her mother which specific point in time she would choose to return to. Her mother firmly states she has absolutely no desire to go back, prompting Lara to ask why. Reaching out toward the window, her mother gently explains that she already possesses something incredibly precious in the present. Lara is deeply moved, her eyes filling with tears as she realizes her mother truly loves her. She whispers a soft, emotional response to her mother. Her mother looks at her with a gentle, questioning smile. Lara offers a radiant, tearful smile, her heart finally feeling at peace. Her mother stares at her lovingly, captivated by her daughter's sudden warmth. The bright, clear sky outside mirrors the newfound hope blooming between them. Her mother calls Lara's name, and she quickly answers with a soft nod. She advises Lara to seek her help whenever she faces trouble, reminding her that she is now free from her father's control. Lara closes her eyes, smiling warmly as she accepts her mother's reassuring promise. The carriage finally arrives, and her mother steps down to begin her new life of freedom. Returning to the mansion, Lara prepares to face her next challenge alone. Looking out the window, Lara feels relieved, knowing her mother is finally safe from her father's toxicity. Sitting in her room, she resolves to handle her father herself without dragging her mother into the dark path ahead. She recalls a painful memory of her mother kneeling and begging her to apologize before it was too late. In her past life, her mother desperately promised to protect her, no matter the cost. Yet, a foolish Laura had coldly rejected her help, claiming she would handle things herself. She bitterly regrets mocking her mother's honest, loving advice in her previous life. Laura laments her past foolishness, feeling like the worst daughter in the world for dying first and causing her mother such pain. She realizes her mother was always a deeply responsible, affectionate woman who never turned her back on those she loved. Even though her mother rarely expressed her feelings in words, she had always been by Laura's side. Standing proudly in her white gown, Laura vows that this time she will protect her mother's happiness no matter what it takes. Her second chance at life begins with a dramatic race against time as her maid delivers panic-inducing news that the royal painter has arrived. Her maid eagerly presents a breathtaking white gown, urging her mistress to prepare for the portrait session immediately. Realization strikes her like lightning as she remembers today is the fateful day she must send her portrait to the prince. Her maid details an elaborate cosmetic plan to make her look weak, submissive, and pale for the portrait. Rejecting the submissive future of her past life, she firmly refuses to go along with the delicate makeup plan. To the complete shock of her servants, she commands them to pack up all the traditional cosmetic tools immediately. She calls her loyal, brown-haired maid forward, who stands ready to receive her next unexpected command. Lying back, she demands a striking, blood-red gown to replace the traditional white dress, signaling her defiant new path. The black-haired painter is left completely startled when the doors suddenly swing open for the lady's arrival. She makes a magnificent entrance clad in an exquisite bold red dress, leaving the artist completely speechless. A confident smirk plays on her lips as she witnesses the artist struggling to process her stunning transformation. She strictly commands the painter to capture her exactly as she appears, without any flattering alterations or standard noble distortions. As the high-stakes portrait session begins, her loyal maid approaches with a beautifully prepared tray of tea. Her maid warmly presents the refreshments, receiving a soft and genuine expression of gratitude from her mistress. Lifting the gold-trimmed cup, she calmly prepares to take a sip of the warm, swirling amber tea. She strategically chooses the scandalous red dress, knowing high society's distaste for it will perfectly offend the prince's delicate sensibilities. She calculates that her bold defiance will convince the royal family that her father's lineage is completely ruined. Reflecting on her current age, she recognizes that this is the absolute perfect moment to execute her grand master plan. She vows to keep a low profile, aiming to evade the dangerous prince's notice and secure her quiet freedom. With her eyes fixed on the future, she resolves to work tirelessly before her eventual meeting with the prince. Shifting her focus, a bright new day dawns as she takes her first bold step toward the outside world. The scene transitions to the bustling city, where a massive coliseum looms dramatically over the crowded town square. Her brown-haired maid looks around in absolute awe, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the massive public gathering. Her maid remains deeply surprised by her quiet mistress's sudden, uncharacteristic desire to visit such a chaotic, crowded location. Strolling through the square, her maid jokingly remarks that seeing her quiet mistress out in public is a literal miracle. She calmly suggests they enter the mysterious arena, ignoring her maid's frantic warnings about her father discovering their whereabouts. She confidently reassures her companion that her father is far too indifferent to ever bother scolding her for this. Without a single hint of hesitation, she strides forward, leaving her panicked maid scrambling to keep up. They step inside the vast, secure interior, assessing the impressive layout of the secretive establishment. Her maid gasps in absolute jaw-dropping shock at the unexpected sight greeting them within the arena. Her maid quickly points out the displayed battle board, highlighting the arena's most recent combat records. Spotting a handsome portrait, she lightheartedly teases her blushing maid about going out to find romance. Her flustered maid huffs in embarrassment, quickly trying to deflect the playful teasing from her mistress. She reveals her true high-stakes objective, confirming that she intends to purchase a slave from the arena. Her maid looks on in complete, wide-eyed bewilderment, struggling to comprehend the sudden and controversial decision. She reaches out toward the portrait on the wall, zeroing in on the specific individual she came to find. A heavy, tense atmosphere settles over them as they prepare to make a choice that will alter their destiny forever. The scene flashes back rapidly, shifting the focus to a dark and painful chapter of her past life. She recalls the legendary figure of Demian, a peerless warrior slave destined to become the feared king of outlaws. She bitterly remembers how Demian was once unjustly accused of a terrible crime entirely because of her past actions. She vividly recalls pointing a blaming finger at Damian, falsely branding him an imperial spy. She admits she foolishly repeated the prince's lies, directly causing the innocent warrior's downfall. Because of her false testimony, Demian was bound in heavy chains, enslaved to the prince, and sent off to war. She remembers how his agonizing suffering drove him to abandon God and wield forbidden dark powers. His reliance on dark magic turned him into a pariah, hunted relentlessly by holy temples and powerful empires alike. Overcome with agonizing tears, she laments that her past lies completely shattered the life of an innocent man. Despite his horrific suffering, Demian never blamed her, instead asking her one lingering question through the cell bars. In her memories, Demian pleaded to know if she would stop hating him if he returned victorious from battle. Bound in chains, the stoic warrior had desperately repeated his question before his final war, receiving her cold confirmation. Staring at a burning torch, she vows that this time she will rewrite their tragic destiny and save him from her past sins. A cold question from her past life echoes in her mind as she faces the man she once destroyed. Her memories confirm that the stoic warrior vanished into the shadows of the night. Whispers from the front lines suggest his loyal comrades risked everything to help him escape. Lara bitterly questions why he never blamed her, even after she branded him his worst enemy. She desperately wishes she could tell him that her cruelty was merely a forced royal command. She wonders if knowing the truth would bring even a shred of peace to his tormented heart. A tragic fate looms over a man cast out by endless misfortune, unable to ever seek the truth. Shaking with anticipation, she grips the lead as her search finally bears fruit. Her heart stops as she finally locks eyes with the man she has been searching for. A sudden, heavy thud outside shatters her focus, putting her on high alert. Hearing the loud commotion, she rushes out of the room to investigate. She gasps in shock as she recognizes the battered warrior locked inside the transport cage. Her loyal maid frantically calls out to her mistress, desperate to halt her sudden advance. The maid begs her to stay back, but Laura quietly commands her to listen. Lara orders her maid to check if he is on today's auction block, prompting her maid's bewildered outcry. She silently scoffs at the word slave, knowing his true, terrifying potential. She is fully aware that this supposedly weak captive possesses the power to slaughter everyone present. Responding to Lara's earnest plea, the maid reluctantly agrees to check the registrations. Her thoughts remain locked on Demian as she prepares for the upcoming auction. She silently vows to protect him, even if she can never truly atone for her past sins. She is determined that in this second chance at life, things will be entirely different. She resolves never to abandon him to his tragic fate again, no matter the cost. She will rewrite destiny to ensure the horrific tragedy of her past life never repeats. Lara eagerly asks her returning maid for updates on the slave's status. Her maid explains that Damian's fate is undecided, facing either the auction block or the deadly mines. Lara realizes his capture was entirely intentional. He allowed himself to be caught for a hidden purpose. She knows a warrior of his legendary caliber would never easily fall victim to mere slave catchers. They step into a magnificent glass greenhouse interior, leaving her maid completely awestruck by the luxury. Lara maintains her cool composure, completely unfazed by the dazzling display of wealth. Cruel noblewomen immediately begin whispering snobbish insults, mocking Lara's simple appearance. Feeling the sting of the whispers, the anxious maid begs her mistress to leave immediately. Lara simply smiles, gently reassuring her worried companion that their petty insults are merely amusing. She internally dismisses the gossiping nobles, noting that their distant whispers pose absolutely no threat. While her maid remains fiercely protective, Lara warmly laughs off her concerns. A sudden shout from her maid catches her off guard, momentarily halting her thoughts. Her maid stubbornly insists that she is still a child who deserves absolute protection. Lara playfully reminds her of her actual age, though her maid argues that words still hurt. A loud, golden bell rings out, signaling that the main event is finally about to begin. The lively announcer gathers the crowd's attention, sending a wave of excitement through the audience. The excited crowd begins eagerly rushing toward their seats in anticipation of the fierce match. Ignoring her maid's lingering hesitation, Lara firmly declares that she has come too far to turn back. With absolute resolve in her stride, she confidently takes her first steps toward the grand stage. She proudly declares her grand ambition to become the sole master of the Outlaw King. The announcer reveals that a fresh batch of newly arrived slaves will be showcased after the match. She observes the chaotic, bloodthirsty crowd, fully aware of their twisted desire to dominate powerful slaves. The announcer introduces the champion gladiators who are about to clash for the ultimate honor. She reflects on the brutal stakes of the arena, where the victor receives glory and the loser faces punishment. When her maid asks who will win, Lara instantly names the champion, leaving her companion utterly astounded. She casually explains that the warrior's high-grade equipment and superior status make his victory an absolute certainty. The deafening clash of steel begins, setting off a high-stakes battle that will determine their fates. The champion stands victorious as his defeated opponent collapses in humiliation. He presents his sword to the seated, red-haired lady in submission. A smug champion basks in the crowd's gasps of admiration. Connie swoons over the handsome champion, asking Lara if she saw that majestic display. Lara silently mocks her maid's dramatic reaction, wondering when this childish game will finally end. A sudden system announcement signals that the highly anticipated main auction is finally beginning. The spotlight shifts dramatically, casting a blinding glow over Lara as all eyes turn toward her. Demian stands stoically as the host asks the crowd if they know how to bid. The host explains that contracts renew biannually and the highest bidder wins the slave. Intense bidding wars erupt as noblewomen shout their massive offers of gold. The announcer excites the crowd by declaring that the final slave of the day is up next. The host hypes Demian, asking the crowd if they have ever seen such rare black hair. Cruel noblewomen mock his messy, thin appearance, calling him a complete waste of money. Spotting her golden opportunity, Lara quietly calls out to Connie to prepare for action. Lara declares her desire to get closer, leaving her maid deeply confused and startled. Connie checks Lara's forehead for a fever, while Lara firmly resolves that Demian won't hurt her. Warning bubbles echo the taboo of visiting a slave, suggesting a party is much better suited instead. Connie warns her about the arena's dark reputation, but Lara sharply cuts off her lecture. Lara issues a final command to buy him regardless of the cost. Shaking with anxiety, Connie reluctantly accepts the heavy pouch of gold coins. Summoning all her courage, Connie stands up and loudly interrupts the auction. Connie proudly bids 2 gold coins, asking the crowd if anyone dares to offer more. A dead silence falls over the entire Colosseum as everyone stares in complete disbelief. The host happily confirms the successful bid while Demian watches in stunned silence. Connie rejoices in her success while Lara gloats over buying the Outlaw King so cheaply. Back in his quarters, a deeply exhausted Demian collapses onto his simple wooden bed. Demian laments his cheap price tag, noting it wouldn't even buy a usable sword. Soft footsteps suddenly echo outside, breaking his chamber's silence. Connie cautiously opens the heavy door, politely asking to enter. Demian instantly recognizes her as the maid who just purchased him. Connie loudly commands the newly appointed warrior of her lady to accept a delivery. Several chibi workers groan under the intense weight of a massive hidden delivery. A giant wooden chest is dropped onto the floor with a thud. Connie quickly runs off, leaving a deeply bewildered Demian staring at the box. The massive chest sits silently, emitting a mysterious, brilliant glow. Intrigued, Demian slowly steps forward to investigate the chest. The heavy lid opens to reveal a legendary hoard of warrior equipment. Demian gasps in absolute shock at the incredible fortune lying before him. Realizing this was all Lara's doing, Demian desperately desires to meet his mysterious savior immediately. A new day begins as maids whisper in the Grand Mansion's halls. Maids gossip happily inside the room while Lara quietly reads her letter in the back. Lara watches them with intense suspicion, keeping her thoughts entirely to herself. An ominous voice suggests that she truly looks like a perfect angel. The maids flatter the saint, begging her not to forget them once she becomes empress. Overhearing the truth, the maids realize the saint's maid cannot accompany her to court. The saint walks away in disgust, internally calling her maid incredibly stupid. Lara reflects on the prince's tragic ignorance, pitying him for believing in the fake saint. She questions if the girl is truly a saint, confident she can outplay her easily. An intense darkness settles as the silent battle of wits begins. The maids interrupt her thoughts, happily announcing they have finished cleaning. Lara coldly dismisses her stunned maids after they finish cleaning her chambers. The dismissed maids whisper about her sudden drastic shift in attitude, recalling how kindly she used to treat them with snacks and money. Lara firmly orders everyone to leave except for her loyal maid Coney, demanding that they do not fool around. Outside the chambers, the confused maids gossip about Lara's inexplicable change in behavior, noting that she was never like this before. Coney anxiously asks Lara if she has grown disappointed with the rest of the mansion's maids. Lara, holding a lavish red book, dismisses her concerns, internally noting that her sweet reputation is completely fabricated. With a decisive click, Lara shuts the heavy, jewel-encrusted book in her hands. As Connie offers to brush her hair, Lara's thoughts drift toward the impending threat of Prince Sidar's approach and his political motives. Lara asks Connie if her father would permit her to live independently, but Connie warns that he might imprison her instead. While styling Lara's hair, Coney mentions that the Marquise's temperament has worsened significantly since she left the palace. Narration notes explain that daughters of noble status are treated merely as political bargaining chips in high society. Changing the subject, Connie asks when Lara plans on visiting her newly purchased slave now that a full day has passed. Lara casually suggests she will visit the yard occasionally when bored to avoid raising any unwanted suspicion. Lara's inner thoughts reveal her true goal to save Damien to prevent becoming a self-absorbed monster. Lara contemplates a strategy to liberate herself from the control of both her father and the prince. A symbolic coin highlights her father's desperate obsession with wealth, high status, and public reputation. Lara recalls her father's past complaints about noble merchants, reflecting on his hypocritical views. Lara observes that Prince Sidar shares the same shallow desire for a trophy wife to elevate his own name. She brainstorms how to become the exact opposite of their ideal woman by building a reputation as an extravagant scandal maker. Connie's repeated question about visiting the slave echoes in Lara's mind, sparking a sudden realization. Lara's golden eyes flash with sudden clarity as a brilliant idea takes root in her mind. With newfound determination, Lara reaches out to firmly grab her startled maid's hand. Smiling warmly, Lara praises Connie for inadvertently giving her the perfect solution, leaving her maid deeply confused. Lara resolves to play the part of a true villain to dismantle her enemy's grand plans. A luxurious horse-drawn carriage speeds through the busy streets of the wealthy district. In a flashback, Lara recalls learning of Damien's sudden arena match and decides to watch it before meeting her designer. Corny protests, suggesting they prioritize meeting the dress designer since Lara's current attire is not suitable for daily wear. Lara looks back with an amused, knowing smirk that catches Connie completely off guard. Lara calculates her savings of 2,000 gold pieces, intending to spend it generously on her new strategy. Lara and Connie arrive at the magnificent venue, drawing snide remarks from passing noblewomen, mocking their supposedly simple attire.